Hello, hello. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Brett Chotkevys, talking about assisted living investing. So today we are going to be breaking down another myth. This is the third one that I'm going through, and I think this myth is frequently told all over the place, and I want to address it. And if you're new to this space, if you are checking out assisted living investing, I actively invest in assisted living. I own the real estate, I own the operations company, my wife and I do it together, and we are continuing to grow our business and expand. I am in this niche currently, and I love this space. But I think there is a lot of misinformation in this space. So if you are considering investing in assisted living, I'm here to show you exactly what we do and how we do it, because I think we have a unique niche. We do a luxury memory care mansion. And I want to talk about one of the myths that I heard when I first got into this. And the myth that I heard was you can make $10,000 a month with an RAL. All right, and if you don't know what an RAL is, it's a residential assisted living. And when I think residential assisted living, I think it's a 6-bed, it's an 8-bed, it's a 10-bed. You're gonna take a house, you're gonna easily convert it into an assisted living. It's really still a house. It's not a purpose-built building. It's not designed for ADA and end-of-life care. It's just a house that you're able to quickly convert, and now you can make $10,000 a month. So in my experience, when I first got into this, I ran a 6-bed and a 3-bed, and I had a live-in manager, and I tell you what, I never came close to making $10,000 a month. So I want to unpack this for you because I think that people are attracted to this space. There's a lot of opportunity here. The baby boomer generation is here. There are so many people who need end-of-life care, and realistically, there's a huge problem in this space, in this assisted living end-of-life care niche, because nobody wants to go to these big facilities anymore, especially post-COVID. Everyone hates these things, and they're smelly and they're gross, and people want a realistic option that is not the big smelly facility. So there's a lot of interest in this assisted living space. If you want to operate or you want to be a passive investor, there's a lot of great things you can do here, and I really love it because of this. But I want to let people know right off the front, if you are doing this or looking to do this, that just taking this idea of I'm going to buy any house anywhere in the country and I'll be able to get my license and it'll be no big deal, and I'll only have to spend a few grand, maybe 10, 20 grand to renovate the property, and I can easily get a license and I can hire someone to run it, and I can make $10,000 a month, and then I can scale this. I can open 3 or 4 or 5, and I can do this, and I'll be set up for life. I'll have passive income. And in my experience, I don't know anyone who does that and who can do it well. And again, I'm talking about this idea of this RAL, this 6 or 8 bed, right? I know that there is a path to do it on a bigger scale, and I'll break that down for you today. But I want to address kind of right off the front here, this idea that you can just convert a house and have a 6-bed or an 8-bed assisted living and make consistent $10,000 a month. So in my experience, I made a couple grand some months when I ran a 6-bed, but realistically, most times I lost money. I lost money, and I was just lucky that the property was actually going up in value those couple years that I did it, because I sold it, and at least I made some money selling the property. But cash flow, monthly income, no, I didn't make any money in a month. So I do know people that do this, right? They run 6 beds, they run 8 beds, and they do make some money, but not the kind of money that I want to make, and not in the way that I want to make it. So I'll unpack that here. But I like math, and I think numbers don't lie. So let's talk about some numbers here. And we'll use this example of a 6-bed or an 8-bed. And if you have 6 private rooms and you charge $5,000 a month, now you have 6 times 5 grand, right? So you have $30,000 a month of income that comes in. Okay, 30 grand a month, that sounds good. You're like, hey, that's a good amount of money. I should be able to take care of my family with that. Let's work backwards here. Let's start with some of the expenses. Okay, so an assisted living has 24-hour staff every single day, 365, 24 hours a day. You have somebody there taking care of people, right? At night, on the weekends, on Christmas, somebody's got to be there. So if you are going to run the barest minimum, okay, you're just going to have one staff, one caregiver at $17 an hour. And again, you can adjust the rate for your area, but that's pretty common for where I'm at. So $17 an hour times 24 hours a day times 30 days a month, plus the estimate that I have in there, about 11% for payroll taxes. Okay, that's about $13,500. Okay, so you've almost cut your 30 grand already in half. Now, what about expenses? I think for a 6-bed, it's pretty fair to say about $7,000 in expenses. And if you start itemizing it and that kind of stuff, you might be able to say, oh, okay, it should be lower. But the little incidentals that you never think of, that you never really budget in my experience, you're going to be paying about $7,000 as a good little estimate for this. So that's food, that's utilities, that's work comp insurance, maybe liability insurance, the little household supplies, the amount of gloves and different things you go through, towels and all these things. So you budget $7,000, okay? So now you're over $20,000. You started with 30, you got 13,500 for staffing, and that's not a manager, that's not a cook, that's just one staff, 40 hours, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the whole year, a whole month. Okay, so now then there's the property, right? You're gonna have your mortgage, your taxes, your property insurance. So we budget $5,000 for that. And again, it may be higher where you're at. Some places are really expensive and interest rates are skyrocketing, so it actually might be higher than that. But if you budget in $5,000 for your property, that leaves you with $4,500 left. Okay, after you bring in your 6 grandmas and you have your $30,000 a month, you now have $4,500. So you're for sure not gonna make your 10 grand. It is literally not possible. Best case scenario, you cannot make the 10 grand. But that's just best case scenario, right? So we're not talking about when you have one bed empty. We're not talking about when you have to train new staff and you're obviously paying overtime. We're not even talking about a manager on there. But you say, oh, well, that's why I'm gonna do an 8-bed, right? Because I'll bring in an extra $10,000 in income and I'll now be making over $10,000, right? Let's break down an 8-bed. Let's talk some numbers here on an 8-bed. So same example, you have 8 private rooms at $5,000 a month, right? So 5 times 8,000, you have 40,000. You think, man, I gotta be doing well if I'm bringing in $40,000 in rent from these grandmas and grandpas. Okay, now let's talk about staffing, because if you're gonna have 8 people, realistically, one caregiver is not gonna be able to handle 8 people. There's gonna be times when, what about when someone falls, right? And if it's a heavier set person, literally you're not gonna get a 25-year-old female caregiver to lift this heavy male or heavy female off the floor. A lot of times you're gonna need 2 caregivers. Now, for the sake of cutting costs and being reasonable with these expenses, I'm gonna use a 2, 2, and 1 staffing example. Meaning if you run 3 8-hour shifts, the nighttime, you don't have to have 2 people there. Let's say you have 1 person there at night. So you have 2 people there for 16 hours a day, 1 person there 8 hours a day. Okay, I'm gonna run this math the same way as before, $17 an hour, include payroll tax. That puts me at $22,600. Okay, so I'm starting with 40,000. I'm gonna subtract more than 50% of that. Okay, going to my staffing. 2 people there most of the day, 1 person at night. And then I'm gonna have my expenses. Okay, I have a little bit of additional expenses. I'm gonna run my expenses at $8,000 a month. Then my property, I'm assuming I have 2 extra bedrooms in there, that my property is a little bit bigger, and so it's gonna have a little bit higher of a payment. So I'm gonna run $6,000 for my mortgage. So now 40,000 minus 22,600 minus 8,000 minus 6,000, where are we at? $3,400. You actually make less money on an 8-bed than you do a 6-bed because of your staffing, right? There's a magic number of a ratio that you really need 2 people to do this for. I really think you need 2 people no matter what, even with 6, because like I said, if you have someone fall, you realistically need 2 people to help them up. If you have someone who's in the restroom for 10 minutes and you're assisting them, what if someone does fall during that time? What if somebody rings the doorbell, right? Like, I really think you need 2 people no matter what. But for the sake of this style of assisted living where you really just can't afford that, this is how I would run it for 1 person. And I honestly don't see any way to make these numbers work. So you can make $4,500 or $3,400 as a 6-bed or an 8-bed, and that is at 100% occupancy. So if you have 100% occupancy 100% of the year, I don't really think that's realistic, right? I don't think that's gonna happen. What happens when you have 1 open bed? you are literally losing money. What are the odds that you're gonna have one open bed? Probably pretty high, right? Like it's gonna happen. They are there for end of life. They are there to pass away. So you're gonna have open beds. And do you really wanna have it where, what if you're just not good at marketing, right? What if 100 different things happen? You're gonna be losing money. What if you have 2 open beds? Do you wanna lose $10,000 a month? How many months in a row could you lose $10,000 before it's unsustainable? Okay, now that's with just talking about occupancy. What about overtime? I didn't budget in any overtime. How often do you think you're gonna have to train new staff? I would say probably 1 or 2 times a month. You're gonna have staff turn, right? None of this income is showing anything for overtime. It's not showing anything for benefits. And if you literally only can afford to have 1 staff there at a time, they have to take on a lot of the workload. And honestly, I think you're gonna be losing staff. You're gonna be turning staff. And we're not even talking about a manager. You cannot afford a manager. There was not a manager or a chef or a marketing person or a bookkeeper or a CPA, any of these things. None of these things were in these expenses. That means that you have to do all of these things. In addition to probably losing money half the year, you have to be the person who shows up every time somebody calls in sick. Every time one of your caregivers gets a flat tire. Every time they just don't feel like coming in, it is now you. You are going there. You are doing that. You are that person on Christmas and on 4th of July. You are the one who's getting the call in the middle of the night. I don't want those calls. I've set up a system that's different than this, so I don't get those calls. So let's talk about another way to do this, right? I say that I have a memory care mansion, and my niche, my favorite number is 16 beds. I think it maximizes the amount of income to my expenses, and I think it's a very strategic number for me. Now, I run a luxury memory care mansion, and we make between $90,000 and $120,000 of income each month, right? Meaning from my 16 grandmas and grandpas, I wanna be charging $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month. So with this kind of numbers, when your income is literally 3 to 4x what some of these 6 or 8 beds, my expenses are not proportionally that same amount. My expenses might only be double, right? I might be having twice as much expenses as a 6 or 8 bed, but I'm bringing in 4 times the income of the 6 or the 8 bed. That's why there is such a huge spread here. When you do this kind of model that I'm talking about, you can net $30,000, $40,000, $50,000+ a month. And it really depends on your income. In some markets, you're able to charge $8,000 a month, $9,000, $10,000 a month. Your expenses are not proportionally the same. You're not gonna be paying $30 an hour for a caregiver. Your food costs, your insurance costs are not gonna be that much higher. When you have a bed rates that can really, your income is the most important thing, can really push these numbers up here. So income all goes back to how many beds you have to fill, right? And that's why 6 or 8 beds, man, it's just a recipe for stress, for being stuck in the system, for literally like being in the rat race, trapped on the wheel, and you literally have 1, 2 employees, you have no manager, and you have no free time. You're just stressed all the time, waiting for that phone to ring at 10 o'clock or at 10:15 when your night person is supposed to get there, and you're just nervous every single night. Are they calling in sick? Are they gonna show up? Are they gonna no call, no show? Do I have to go work it again? Like, this is such a hard little niche, this RAL, this 6 or 8 bed. It's not scalable. It's super stressful. I've done it. And I think there's a way better way to do this. So if you like this, if you're interested in learning more about our niche, learning more about investing in assisted living, you can do it as an owner operator. You can be there making that bigger money, or you can do it just the real estate side. You could be a passive investor. You could buy these and rent them out. You can rent them on a triple net. You can rent them to the big operations companies. There's a lot of opportunity in this space, and it's really hot and it's really booming, but there's clearly some misinformation around this space, and there's people who are doing bad deals. They're doing deals that they're getting trapped, and they're not able to reach any type of financial freedom. They're really just an employee in their own business, and they're pretty much working all the time for almost no pay. They might actually be losing money and working that much. So check this out, follow the channel. Again, my name is Brett Chotkevys. I'm doing this right now and I love this niche. It has made a huge impact for my family, for my kids, for myself. We love it. It is super, super rewarding. We are making money and serving a purpose. And if you like this kind of stuff and you're interested in assisted living investing, continue to check out the channel. I'm gonna be bringing more stuff like this, breaking down the numbers and showing real life, kind of behind the scenes, what is working right now. So much has changed through COVID, so much has changed through inflation, and the numbers are not what they used to be. And the market has shifted and you have to shift your deal. You have to shift what you're doing. So thank you so much for coming. I will see you all on the next episode.